Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of PewterReport.com and the Pewter Report podcast. This is our first episode of the new year in 2024. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope that this year is your best one yet and that you're enjoying it already. I know I had a great time watching those college football playoff matchups last night. Two incredible games. And of course, a big game coming up this Sunday for the Bucs. High stakes in Carolina. It's very simple. Win and they're in. Lose and they go home and their season is done. So we got a lot to break down on today's show, plus roll call at 4:20. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at PewterReport.com, SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, Happy New Year to you. How you doing?
Happy New Year. I'm doing good. Happy New Year. It's great to see everybody. Appreciate you all joining us. And 2024 has begun. But first, we got to wrap up this Buccaneer 2023 season. And how and when will it end? Is it going to end in Carolina with a loss to the Panthers? That would be devastating, right? Because the Panthers are one of the worst teams in the league record-wise. But a team that only lost to Tampa Bay by 3 points. So there's that. Or is this going to end in the postseason with the Buccaneers at least having one home playoff game as NFC South champions? That's what happens if the Buccaneers win on Sunday. And then, of course, there's the fate of Todd Bowles to be discussed, right? Because, I don't know that there's many other media outlets that are kind of talking about this, Matt, but I mean, I don't know that if the Buccaneers lose this game, Todd Bowles is getting fired. I mean, I think that's, and I've not heard that that's not official, but I'm just saying it's like reading the tea leaves and looking at this team and what they've done in years past with coaches and the amount of time that they've given them. The Lakers want to see progress, and you could certainly make the case that if they finish 8-9 again, and they don't win the NFC South, that is certainly not progress. So I don't know how that Todd Bowles comes back after this. So there is that storyline to consider as well.
Yeah, it's a combination of a couple of things. Progress, of course, is one of them. If they lose, they'd be 8-9 again for the second year in a row. And I think it's not even whether they end up 9-8 or 8-9, or would have been nice if they were 10-7. I think it's just, if you're looking at it black and white, looking at this picture, it's okay. Yes, you went on this winning streak. You had 2 games to get the job done. One at home against a team that you already dominated earlier in the season, and a team that was reeling in their own right, that you could have taken care of business. Or you could have won, yes, while it's on the road against an extremely inferior team that you should absolutely take care of business again.
Right.
And when you look at all of that, then you say, well, what are the positives and negatives of Todd Bowles as a head coach? And you can look at the positives. The players like him, and he's able to keep the group together. But then you look at the negatives, and you say, all right, well, you had a little bit of this winning streak, but that game that they lost to the Saints, is that a little more indicative of what's going to continue for Todd Bowles, or was that just an anomaly, and they'll get right back on to that winning track? There's really no perfect way to answer it. There's one other thing I want to look at with Todd Bowles and this year's coaching staff in particular, because let's remember the timeline of when Todd Bowles got hired to be the next head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was shortly after the NFL owners meetings when Bruce Arians was not made available to the media, and we were there. And typically, all the coaches speak there. And the reason why the timeline is important is because Todd Bowles, while he is familiar with a lot of the people on the coaching staff, was not able to bring in his own guys, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So he was kind of stuck with Byron Leftwich, and we all know the story there. And then he ended up letting go of Byron Leftwich and bringing in Dave Canales. And I know we're all looking at the last game against the Saints and being like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this offense. But overall, if you're looking at the entire body of work, I still think that Canales has made this offense better, and it's improved in certain ways. If you're Todd Bowles, I'd be arguing as well, if I'm trying to keep my job, I would say, listen, that's only year one with Dave Canales. He's not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
if we're back next season, that offense is only going to get that much better. But then if I'm the Glazers, I say, well, Todd, you're the defensive guy, and the defense is worse than it was last season.
Yes.
So,
Bingo.
even though you have some different and better pieces, which is a little bit of something I'll be talking about on Roll Call today. But yeah, there's a lot of pieces to put together to this puzzle, to this picture about whether or not to keep Todd Bowles.
Yeah, and well said. And there is a lot to consider. And you have to look at Dave Canales too. And nobody wants to hear this now because the Bucs had 44 yards of offense in the first half and were shut out. But he has made some strides. You can't look at the entire season with the recency bias of Sunday's game and say, well, the offense has been terrible. It's actually improved. They're scoring 21 points per game this year. With Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich, they averaged 18 points per game last year. That's a 3-point improvement per game. And if you go back to last year with Tom Brady, and if you were to replace all of the scores of the Buccaneers games, Tampa Bay scores, with just 21 points, whether they scored more, whether they scored less, if you just gave them 21 points per game, last year's Bucs would have been 10-7, right? So there's that to consider too, that this is what an improved offense can look like. But, Matt, you said it. The fact that Todd Bowles runs the defense, and when we say runs the defense, he is the defensive play caller, right? Mm-hmm. He determines who plays in terms of the playing time percentages, the depth chart, everything. And when that side of the ball has taken a step back in total yards and scoring defense and passing defense, then you look at it and say, well, is it worth sticking with Todd Bowles, or do we look behind what could be door number 2, and could it be better, right? And the Glazers have made this call before, and they took a high stakes gamble back in 2002 when Tony Dungy, the beloved Tony Dungy, who had set this team up with future Hall of Fame players in terms of their trajectory. Those guys were drafted under Sam Weish, but took Warren Sapp's game to new heights, Derek Brooks, etc., drafted Rondé Barber, drafted Warwick Dunn, guys like that, and turned this thing around, got this team into the cusp of a Super Bowl, built a Super Bowl caliber defense with a coaching staff that included the likes of Monty Kiffin and Mike Tomlin and Raheem Morris, etc. And they said, that's not good enough. Mm-hmm. And they fired him after making the playoffs 3 straight years in 1999, 2000, and 2001. They took a chance, and they said, we can do better. And they got John Gruden. So having said that, it's like if you look at this situation, Todd Bowles is not Tony Dungy. He's not John Gruden. He's not Bruce Arians. I think he's more in the line of like a Dirk Cutter type coach. So can you level up? Yeah, I think you can. At the same time, Matt, you look and they thought they could level up from Greg Schiano from 4-12 in 2013, and they got Lovie Smith, which was 2-14 the next season. So it doesn't always work out. The Glazers have experienced both ends of the spectrum, and it'll be really interesting to see which direction they go. I do think if Bowles and the Bucs lose in Carolina on Sunday, I do think he's gone. If they win, it might come down to how that playoff game shapes up.
Yeah, and that's the other caveat in all of this is if he does win and he improves by 1 game and wins the division again, I don't know if 9-8 saves his job. And how does that playoff game look against what most likely is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles? Because I believe the Cowboys have taken over first place in the NFC South. So, the NFC East. The Bucs play in the NFC South. So you would have a matchup that we've already seen this season between the Bucs and the Eagles. But the Eagles just lost to the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah. Their defense has regressed. I mean, we talked a lot about how the Bucs defense has regressed. Yeah. The Eagles defense has regressed as well, even from that first matchup early in the season on Monday Night Football. So what if he goes 9-8 and they lose in a close game to the Eagles? What do you do there? If they get absolutely smoked by the Eagles, I think it's kind of clear what the direction will be. And then if you win and you move to the second round, that clearly is improvement. What do you do in that type of situation? There is layers and layers to this.
I think there's some style points, right?
Yes.
I think there's some style points. Like, for example, if Florida State had drubbed Louisville in that AFC Championship game and put 30, 40 points on the board, that might have swayed the committee to put them into the playoffs, right? Because, this could be a Cardale Jones type thing where Ohio State is down to its, third-string quarterback, and they're still clicking and rolling. So I think there's some style points to this too, right? Do the Buccaneers barely beat Carolina 20-19 or something like that to win the NFC South? And then do they barely beat a team in the playoffs, or did they barely lose? Style points matter. Not to a committee, but to the Glazers and Jason Light. Because you got to remember, even if the Buccaneers win this division for a second year in a row, Matt, there is a possibility if Atlanta beats New Orleans on Sunday and the Bucs beat the Panthers on Sunday, out of 2 years, there will only be one team that has a winning record out of all 4 teams in the NFC South, and that would be the 9-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, that's crazy. Same thing if the Saints win, they'll be 9-8, right? And if they win the division and the Bucs lose to the Panthers, they'll be the only team in 2 years that has a winning record in the South. If the Falcons win and the Bucs lose, the Falcons at 8-9 could win the division, right? And it's crazy to think that the NFC South, being so downtrodden, has this division title decided in week 17 a year ago, in week 18 this year. So I think you have to step back and look at this and say, okay, so you won the division, but man, you barely won it twice in such a bad division. It'd be different, I think, if Todd Bowles and the Bucs this year had gotten to 10-7 or 11 wins, and almost like what the Patriots used to do with the AFC East, right? Just be kings of the hill. You'd feel better about that going forward. But the fact that it's been a struggle, I don't know, it gives this team a lot of confidence that Bowles can be a guy that can ultimately take this team to new heights, which is wins in the postseason.
And then, as you already brought up, Dirk Cutter era, Greg Schiano, and Lovie Smith as well. Raheem Morris. There is also that other situation of the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Now, there are a lot of tantalizing options for the Bucs. Todd Monken, who we've spoken about a lot. Ben Johnson with the Detroit Lions, their offensive coordinator is very talented. But as I've said before, there is more than one coaching vacancy this year, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
To Todd Monken, he may say, yes, I want to go to Tampa. I'm familiar with the area. I've lived there before, and I want to live in Florida. But not every coaching candidate isn't going to maybe necessarily want to come to the Bucs. Maybe they want to coach Justin Herbert or something like that.
Right.
So there's that scenario. So if you don't get Todd Monken and you don't get Ben Johnson, what's your next option? How much of an upgrade are you getting there? Are you going to get another new offensive mind? Are you going to bring in another defensive guy, even though you just had a defensive coach, and you have to completely change around the defense with whatever system that coach wants to do, and then probably change a new offense as well if Dave Canales isn't there and a new coach comes in? There's so many different ways to slice this, and we'll have plenty of time in the offseason to really break it down as well. Jim Harbaugh obviously is another one. We'll see what's up with Michigan as well. And then the other thing they have to decide is who's going to be the quarterback. I know last week it was a love fest. The Bucs love Baker. Baker loves the Bucs. Everything is great. And then you get last week's performance, and that's why I think what you say is great, Scott, about every week is a Polaroid picture essentially, and you're taking a snapshot of that week and how did this team look? Because I think it's a big question going into Carolina is which Bucs team are you going to get? Are you going to get that team that lost 6 of 7, that shot themselves in the foot, that had many opportunities to win and then just didn't? Or are you going to get the team Baker looking confident, absolutely slinging it. Offense looks the best it's been all season. The defense is being opportunistic because they are a little boomer bust. And again, I'll talk about that in 3 minutes. And getting turnovers and getting to the quarterback and capitalizing on those takeaways. This season has been a roller coaster of a lot of ups and downs. Currently, they are down after losing to the New Orleans Saints. Curious how they'll look against the Panthers with this time around. Right. The Bucs have their backs against the wall, which is really important.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, because we saw the Saints come in without any cushion, without any room for error. It was do or die on Sunday, and they wanted to live. They wanted to do.
Yeah.
Is Tampa Bay going to play tight? Are they going to be anxious? Are they going to are they going to play a little scared? Like, oh my gosh, we could blow this. What happens if Carolina goes up 7-0? Does that send shockwaves through the Bucs sidelines and like, oh my gosh, we're in position, we're going to lose this now? Or does it rally the troops and say, not today. This is our division. We stubbed our toe last week. We're going to come down to Carolina and, come out like stone cold killers and just take this thing. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. And we've done a good job predicting some of these games. I think everybody has a winning record. Right?
We do.
On the Pewter Report staff in terms of picking wins and losses. But man, after Sunday's loss to New Orleans, I mean, this game literally could go either way. And you look at this and say, well, Jacksonville just waxed Carolina on Sunday, and the Bucs just throttled the Jaguars, right? But the Panthers came to Tampa and lost by 3 points. So any given Sunday, man, that's what makes this league so interesting, is just when you think you have it all figured out.
Right.
We'll see. Yeah. And then you throw in the fact, too, that Baker Mayfield, right? If he has, a sternum upper rib injury, guess what? Every time you're dropping back to pass, you're feeling that, right? And that's going to affect your torque, your velocity, your accuracy. It's going to be interesting to see when we're at One Buccaneer Place tomorrow, Matt, exactly how Baker Mayfield is feeling. And not just that, Matt, let's say he's healthy enough to play. Todd Bowles says he's playing. Okay, great. Playing is one thing. Being accurate and throwing the ball with enough velocity to succeed is another. And what's going to happen when he gets hit?
Yeah, exactly. If I'm the Bucs, I get Kyle Trask a couple of reps this week, just in case something happens to Baker Mayfield. And yes, we will be paying attention to that very, very closely all week at practice. Usually Wednesday so far has been a walkthrough over the last 2 months. So we'll see if Baker is even throwing any pass.
Probably not. Is my guess.
We'll make sure if he does that it's captured on video. So Todd Bowles did speak on Monday at the facility, which I thought was kind of odd because last week on Christmas they did a Zoom, and then New Year's Day they didn't. But there's also the ReliaQuest Bowl going on at Raymond James State. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. But he said that Baker said he's sore, said he's going to play on Sunday. So there's not that much mystique with it. Before we get to roll call, we got 2 super chats that I want to get to real quickly. The first super chats of the new year. So thank you to Kelly Dwight Fields for the $1.99 super chat, who says a head coach, I'm assuming, will bench a quarterback if he's playing terrible. Well, I don't think Baker's had bad games, and I think I would depict last week's game as one of those. But I don't think he's been really terrible at any point this season. I don't really think – actually, the Carolina game was the one time I was like, all right, well, if they don't score on this drive, do you put in Kyle Trask just to get a spark? And then he hit Mike Evans for a big play, and we never had that discussion again.
And the first half was a monsoon, too, so there's that.
Yes.
We'll have to give him a little bit of grace for the weather conditions, too.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, this game, it's a do-or-die situation. Yeah. I think Baker, if he gets benched, it would be more Todd saying, listen, Baker, you're not 100%. The rib thing is really inhibiting you, so we're going to go with Kyle Trask. And that's a whole nother can of worms, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Appreciate the super chat from Kelly Dwight Fields. We got a $2 super chat from Timothy Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, who is asking, y'all think the Tepper Jags fan incident affects the game? For those that may not know, David Tepper was in the box, obviously, watching the Panthers-Jaguars game. Some Jaguars fans were saying something to him and he
Right.
tossed his drink at them. If anything, I mean, he'll probably get fined a ton of money to everyone else, but to him,
It
it's
won't
dropping
affect
the
the team.
bucket.
They could care less.
If anything, I mean, he doesn't seem like an owner that players want to play for, because I don't know, he's already been in a lot of controversial stuff already, and he's only owned the team for like a couple of seasons.
Years. Right.
If anything, maybe they would be more relaxed if he got like suspended and couldn't be at the game. And it's like, all right, like he's not in the area.
Good point.
Yeah. So if anything, it would probably help the Panthers.
That's a good point.
Anyway, though, let's move on to our favorite thing that we like to do on our first show of the week. Typically, it's on Mondays, but it's a Tuesday since yesterday was New Year's Day. The first roll call of the new year. Where you at, pewter people, as we like to say. For those that may be joining the show for the first time or getting to join live for the first time, we like to do this on, welcome. We like to do this every, typically Monday, but on Tuesdays in this case, where at 4:20 or right around it, one of us on the show will start going on a diatribe about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in the meantime, in the comments, because we love interacting with everybody so much, start putting your location where you're watching the show from. We like to give shout outs to everybody because we have fans both in Tampa, in the state of Florida, in the United States, and internationally. So we just want to give you guys a shout out because we couldn't do the show without you guys and really appreciate it. So I'm going to be talking about your Buccaneers today. I'm going to take this in two different directions because I had a plan going into this, and then there was some news that came out recently that Bucs fans have been talking about, so I want to talk about that as well. So I'm going to start with the offensive side of the football. There was news that was reported by all the bigwigs, Schefter, Ian Rappaport, all that stuff, that the New York Jets and Dalvin Cook have both agreed to mutually part ways and release him so Dalvin Cook can try to latch on with the team that's going into the postseason and potentially can go on a playoff run and maybe win the Super Bowl. And rightfully so, because there was a Dalvin Cook conversation before the season began and before he signed with the Jets about bringing Dalvin Cook into Tampa Bay and kind of having a little 1-2 punch with Rachaad White. Now the situation has changed. Rachaad White clearly has shown and proven that he is an RB1, at least especially as a receiving threat at running back. And people aren't in love with the depth of the rest of the running back room. But I wouldn't mind spinning the tires on Dalvin Cook. However, I still do think Chase Edmonds provides a little bit more than Dalvin Cook. But I think we also have to temper our expectations because it's a two-way street when it comes to Dalvin Cook. He wants to, as the reports say, he wants to win a Super Bowl. He wants to go on a playoff run. The Bucs aren't even guaranteed to be in the playoffs.
That's right.
They still have to win on Sunday. So if you're Dalvin Cook, and even if the Bucs win on Sunday and then they punch their ticket to the postseason, why would you want to sign with the Bucs when you have an opportunity to potentially get picked up by the Ravens, who have had a number of injuries at running back, by the Dolphins, who have a high-powered offense and they have their fair share of injuries, the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, even though it's a meaningless game for them, all of a sudden Christian McCaffrey has a calf injury and he's not going to play and he's going to have some time to rest it. But their depth is a little thin after Elijah Mitchell. Why wouldn't you want to sign on with a team like that as opposed to going to the Bucs? Now, you could argue, oh, well, he comes in here, he can compete to be RB2. I'm telling you, I've watched a lot of Dalvin Cook this season. He has lost a step. He's not bad in pass protection. That could be something that he provides. But Rachaad White is your guy on third down because he's one of your best receiving threats for the Bucs offense. So I just don't really see why Dalvin Cook would want to come here. And he doesn't have that same punch, that same push that he once had when he was, an all-pro running back with the Minnesota Vikings. He's slowed down a little bit. I wouldn't hate it from a depth perspective of, having him as RB3 if something happened to Chase Edmonds again, right, because, they obviously don't trust Sean Tucker at this point. But I would not expect Dalvin Cook to want to come here in the first place. And secondly, there's a lot more. I would go. I'm team Chase Edmonds over Dalvin Cook. Essentially, is what I want to say. I was going to talk about the Bucs defense as well, but it seems like we ran through our all the great Peter people. So
Yeah.
we can just continue the conversation, really. But
Yeah.
first, I want to start a new conversation about our friends over at Celsius Energy, the official energy drink of the Peter Report podcast, and talk about the Celsius Essentials, one of the newest things that they have going on. It's performance energy with 270 milligrams of caffeine to help you live fit. They're formulated for the fitness enthusiast looking to elevate their performance. It's made with premium, proven ingredients like 3 essential aminos. It's an unbeatable combination of ingredients that support your physical and cognitive performance. And of course, there's no sugar. Celsius Essentials is the ultimate energy drink formulated by Celsius for the fitness enthusiasts looking to elevate their performance. Made with Celsius proprietary MetaPlus formula and 3 essential aminos, Celsius Essentials provides you with an unbeatable combination of ingredients that supports your physical and cognitive performance. With a specially formulated lineup of bold flavors, Celsius Essentials is a game changer for those wanting to unlock their full potential and take their fitness journey to the next level. They're available at 7-Elevens nationwide. There's a 3-flavor variety pack, and as you know, variety is the spice of life. Now available at Walmart on rollback, and they're rolling out nationwide at select retailers. So go to Celsius.com/find Celsius Essentials and check out all the great flavors you have. You know that we love every single flavor of Celsius. I was rocking with the Arctic vibe yesterday as I was watching the college football games, trying to get a little pep in my step after the New Year's Eve and getting ready for the new year. So if you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink, you can go to your local Walmart, Target, 7-Eleven, health and fitness store, or it could just be your bodega.
Bodega.
And once you keep going to your bodega and you want more, you heard me talk about the variety pack, head on over to Amazon, click on the subscribe and save, and you can have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. It could be week, month, quarterly, yearly. You're in charge. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of PeterReport.com.
Yeah, you know, Matt, today's show is already alive and kicking, but tomorrow is our Bucs versus Panthers preview, and there's that guy right there, Trey Palmer, who had a good game, had a costly fumble, but it was this a coming out party for him? Josh Capo thinks it was a breakout performance for him with 4 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Should have had 2, but he fell. But we'll see if he can continue his hot start and end the season with the bang to help the Buccaneers. So Bucs versus Panthers preview tomorrow, 4:00 live. Make sure you check out the Peter Report podcast. As always, on Peter Report TV, where you can watch us live, as you are right now, or the podcast archive versions on YouTube, Peter Report TV. We had great turnout today, as we always do, for any roll call, whether it's a Monday or a Tuesday. And I want to give a shout out to quite a few people actually here. We've got some old familiar faces and some exciting newcomers, so we greatly appreciate that. First of all, Alien Mastodon, near a Texas route. I like that. So you're right there in the backyard of the national championship game, which will be in Houston between the Washington Huskies and the Michigan Wolverines. So that'll be exciting to see. We're all the way down here in Tampa, Florida. And you're all the way up there in Tacoma, Washington, Joseph. So we appreciate you tuning into the Peter Report podcast. And an international viewer, Luke Crompton, over there in New Zealand. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got Catherine Laboda from just down the way in Dunedin. Always appreciate our Floridians who tune into the show. Kels 808, as always, aloha from Hawaii, Peter people. Appreciate you tuning in as well. We're going to go back overseas to the French Alps at La Chapelle from Arnaud Oltmans. Hopefully I said that correctly. And then we're going to go back stateside to Man Easterling from Memphis, Tennessee, home of some great barbecue, Gibson's Donuts, Gus's Fried Chicken, Ghost River Gold Ale, which is one of my favorite beers of all time, Rendezvous Barbecue. Love Memphis. It's a great foodie town. Nixa, Missouri, hometown of Jason Bourne, says Tim Brookie. That's awesome. Great movie, great book by Robert Ludlum. and a couple more out there in Butte, Montana. I was out in Montana back in October. Loved it. Can't wait to go out to Big Sky Country again. Appreciate it, John, for tuning in. And Jennifer Hardy from Banner Elk, North Carolina, via Tampa. She's obviously a Baker Mayfield fan. Boomer Sooner to you, Jennifer.
Very cool. Love the turnout again. I was looking at some of it as I was obviously trying to make my point as well. Appreciate you guys so much. Can't thank you enough every single week. It makes the show that much more fun. You guys make it what it is. And, roll call is obviously a really important part of this show. So appreciate the turnout from everybody. Let's get to a couple super chats that have come this way. Thank you very much, everybody. Starting with Justin Ballas with a $4.99 super chat who says, everyone has been talking up Kalijah Kancey and Yaya Diaby, but PFF grades show they've been average or below average in Kancey's case. What's the discrepancy? I'm actually glad this question came up because this is something I want to expand on a little bit more in terms of the Bucs defense. I want to talk about it a little bit with roll call, but I went longer on Dalvin Cook. Anyway, I find it so interesting with this team this year with the Bucs. It's like, okay, they got a brand new pass rusher with Yaya Diaby, and he leads the team in sacks. Antoine Winfield Jr. moves back to free safety, and he is at an all-pro level and has at least started to be in the discussion for Defensive Player of the Year. Kalijah Kancey, a stud since he's come back from his injury and has provided so much to this team. We've seen so many nice pieces, new additions, or good changes to this team, and yet the defense is even worse this year than they were last year.
Yeah,
with a couple with Antoine Winfield Jr. essentially playing out of position, the defensive line not as good as it is this season without having Kalijah Kancey, and I guess an upgrade at outside linebacker with Yaya this year versus running out the group that they did last season. So I don't know, just kind of an enigma in my opinion when you look at the Bucs defense.
Yeah, I think when you look at the down in, down out performances, right? It's like we can stat sheet scout, right? We just look at the box score, see what they did from a production standpoint. That doesn't always tell the tape of how good or bad these players are performing. I think when you look at what they're doing down in and down out, these are more splash type players. And what I mean by that is if you look at Kalijah Kancey and Yaya Diaby, both of these guys have 10, 11 tackles for loss, 4 sacks for Kancey, 6.5 for Diaby. So they're making some impact plays. They're making some splash plays. Like, for example, go back to the 2 tackles for loss that Diaby had in the game against the Saints, right? 2 great plays, but where was he for the majority of the other snaps, right? Sometimes when you're doing your job, Pro Football Focus will give you, credit for, okay, he was in his gap, he didn't get blown out of his gap, et cetera, even though the play goes the other way. That's how they grade. So sometimes the play comes your way and you have more opportunities than other instances. I just think that there's not a lot of rookies that come into the league and they're consistent down in, down out players, right? They're not Levante David. They're not Antoine Winfield Jr. They're always going to have those high consistent grades. Yaya Diaby, though, I believe was 5th or 6th in terms of the PFF grade this week, even though he didn't even have a sack. And Kancey, there's been some games where he's made some splash plays, but then he's also got blown up in the run game. Playing defensive tackle in the NFL on defense, aside from island cornerback, is probably the hardest position to come in as a rookie and play. Look at Warren Sapp. He had 3 sacks his rookie season. Vita Vea had 3 sacks his rookie season. Gerald McCoy had 3 sacks his rookie season. All 3 of those guys ended up becoming Pro Bowl defensive tackles. Sapp's in the Hall of Fame. Kancey already has 4 sacks, and he missed, essentially 5 games this year at the beginning of the season. So I'm optimistic these guys will become more consistent in year 2, and I'm not terribly surprised that their PFF grades are low, because I think if you look at most rookies around the league, that's kind of what you see, and that's reflective of inconsistent play from rookies. Doesn't mean they don't have an upside. Doesn't mean they're not productive. You'd rather see splash plays and glimpses of what that ceiling could look like, right, Matt? But
Yeah.
But as opposed to like Logan Hall, where you just don't see it at all,
Mhm.
or Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. So I think we're going to see better performances, more consistency, better PFF grades from these guys in year 2. Cody Mauch's the same way. You Josh Capo
Yeah.
can sit there and pull out. Look at these 12 amazing plays by Cody Mauch where he looks like a Pro Bowl guard. But then there's 12 plays where he doesn't, where he looks awful. Then there's a bunch of plays where he's just kind of average in between. So with more experience, with improvement within a system, that jump that you get by being in an NFL weight training program from year 1 to year 2, rather than Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine, combine training, doing all the circuits for the top 30 visits, right? Where you can focus on, I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. I'm lifting with my teammates. I might even lift with Luke Gedeke and Tristan Wirfs, right? That's where you see the big jump from rookies to second-year players in terms of their play. And if they don't make that jump, then you got a Logan Hall, and then you've got a Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. But I think these guys, Malk, Diaby, Cansey, I think that their flashes are higher and more often than what we saw from either Hall or Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, a couple of top picks in recent years.
Yeah, but if you're friends with the team captain and you played at the same college with him, you can still go to the sideline when your Washington Huskies get into the play in the college football playoff.
Exactly.
Anyway, that was cool to see. Anyone that didn't see Vita Vea, JTS, and Kate Otten were all on the sidelines of the Washington game. I know some people are going to freak out and be like, they should be focused on the game. Listen, it's a flight from Tampa to New Orleans. I'm sure they went back that night. Monday or Tuesday's the off day anyway, so
they have to ready to charter a plane.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't take that long.
They're not hanging at the airport waiting for the flight. They chartered a plane. They flew up there. Like Matt said, I'm sure they flew back last night, right? Today's the players' day off, right? So there is some downtime that you need to decompress from the game of football.
That's all I'm trying to say. I don't want it to turn into. There's a big thing years ago when the Giants went down to Miami. We're all on a boat. They played the Packers in the playoffs. And it became a whole thing. So anyway, Bucs Basin with the $5 super chat says, and thank you, Bucs Basin. Bowles did himself no favors with the things he said post-loss. Him saying we were in a daze sounds like they're emulating their head coach perfectly.
Yeah.
I just think it was very, very shocking to see them come out so flat in this type of game where, they could have had the knockout blow. They could have put the dagger into the Saints season while also punching their ticket into the postseason, which we've talked about before. And to come out so flat on both sides of the ball, I mean, the defense allowed a touchdown on the opening drive, and it took half the first quarter, and then the offense immediately comes out and gets 3 and out, and they had 4 3 and outs in their first 8 drives. So essentially every other drive. In that style, that type of mood coming out. I don't know if that's on Bowles, if that's on the players, on the captains and the leadership. But yeah, that was really disappointing to see. That was, I don't know. That's quite bothersome.
I like what Todd Bowles said to begin with, which he called out essentially himself and Dave Canales saying, we got to come up with better game plans, right? It's what we didn't work at all. So kudos to that. I will say this. Todd Bowles, listen, he doesn't give the most rah-rah, speeches. He's not that inspirational guy. He's not Dan Campbell. He's not Bruce Arians, right? He's not John Gruden. He's not a fire and brimstone kind of guy. He's lost some press conferences, right, Matt? You and I have been there where he has lost the press conference, where he said the wrong thing. You and I look at each other and we're like, oh boy, we know what's going to lead today's podcast, right? I mean, we sat there in the front row and we've had those looks at each other. If I'm Todd Bowles and I come out to the media after that game, and you're right, he did have that deer in the headlights look, like I can't believe this just happened, right? He was reeling like the players were. I think you come out there and it's a little bit of like Tim Tebow-esque, right? Where you come out defiant and you just say, this was absolute horse crap today. And I guarantee you, we're not going to play like this against Carolina. Okay, we are absolutely not going to play like this. And matter of fact, you're never going to see us play like this again. We will be ready to play. We will have better game plans. We will, as coaches, have this team ready to go, whether the players are or not. We are going to lead this team to victory next week and into the playoffs, and have some swagger, some confidence, some bravado. And even if it's fake, what do they say? Fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
have something to stir the masses, stir the troops. The players, they're on social media. They see the clips. They repeat a report. They follow workouts. They get that message out. Use the media to tell the players, if they weren't paying attention to what you just said in the locker room 5 minutes ago, you're putting them on notice that that was unacceptable. We'll accept responsibility, but we'll be damned if that's going to happen again. And it just, you don't see that. And I don't think that Todd Bowles has that in him. That's not who he is. And I think that's what's missing from this team. And that's why this team is not going to maybe be anything more than a better version of Dirk Cutter, but not get to that Tony Dungy, John Gruden, Bruce Arians level.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it would resonate so much more because it isn't what Todd Bowles does, where it's like, wow, he really means business now if he's calling someone out or, getting fiery on the sideline. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be like a Jacksonville game. They jump out to a 30-0 lead against Carolina, and Todd can save that emotion for, I don't know, maybe using it against the Eagles the following week. Shout out to Original Windex. Thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. If you have another comment, we're happy to put it up whenever that comes through on the show. So moving on, thank you to Pico de Style Mutant for the $2 super chat, who has a plan for the Bucs. Hire Harbaugh, fire Todd Bowles, let Devin White walk, draft J.J. McCarthy, who, of course, is the Michigan quarterback who made a very nice one-handed catch on that botched flea flicker play. It actually ended up working.
And threw a nice pass off his back foot, almost getting crushed. Yeah.
Didn't even have the laces on the ball, too, if you watch the he had to get rid of it. He was about to get hit.
Yeah.
Harbaugh obviously is an extremely popular name. Great coach. I mean, if you look at his history, everywhere he's gone, he's pretty much built winning teams. Did not win the Super Bowl, lost to his brother, actually. But does have a chance to John Harbaugh, but does have a chance to win the national championship. I was listening to the Dan Patrick show earlier today, and he brought up a good thing interesting point about Harbaugh, where, Harbaugh went to Michigan. That's his alma mater, but he's done a lot of stuff in California as well. He coached at Stanford. He coached the 49ers.
Yep.
There's, I think, San Diego or San Diego State. San Diego. So he coached there as well. So
he was Josh Johnson's coach when the Bucs drafted Josh Johnson from San Diego. Yeah.
So the reason why I bring that up in that point from Dan Patrick is you have the Chargers right out there. I know it's not, the San Fran
Justin
area.
Herbert,
But you got Justin Herbert. You got a quarterback that you want. J.J. McCarthy is funny. I was talking with people yesterday about where would he get drafted? Would you want someone like Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy? I don't know. I mean, what I will give J.J. McCarthy credit for is that game was on the line. They needed to score a touchdown to tie the game up. And he got the job done and then went out. I know they mostly ran it with Blake Corum in overtime, but got that touchdown in overtime when they needed it. And I respect the gutsy performance that he had.
I agree. And John Spytek, assistant general manager, is a Michigan man. Go Blue.
Larry Foote.
Yeah, Larry Foote. So there's some people that I'm sure are J.J. McCarthy fans in the building over there. So we'll see what happens. I think the problem is with Harbaugh is if he's Bill Belichick. He is the general manager, the head coach. He runs the show and doesn't stay long, Matt.
Right.
Doesn't stay long. So if things go south for him, as they have in other coaches that have made the jump from college to pro, right? Nick Saban's one of those guys. Steve Spurrier's another. Will he go back, right? Will he go back to college at the first sign of trouble? Now, he's had success in the 49ers organization, so it's not like he hasn't or can't win at this level. He has, and Matt's right. He's won everywhere he's been, but doesn't stay long. And so how long until he feels uncomfortable? If it's not working, is he going to bail? Because he's hop, skipped, and jumped around now.
Yeah,
quite a few times.
No, that's a great point. And on top of that, another thing is that he could kind of dangle that over the Bucs, where it's like, hey, if I don't get my way, screw you, I'll just go back to college, because every single college team outside of Ohio State would say,
would take him in a heartbeat. Yeah,
come in, Mr. Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, make yourself at home. Or he could just say, screw you, I'm going to go back to Michigan, because they take him as well. So you definitely have to factor that in. Thank you to Dante Mason for this 1999 super chat. Appreciate you. Dante says, hey guys, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well, Dante.
Thank you.
Is Shaq Barrett playing this week? If so, does it seem like he lost a step? By the way, Compton, California, in the building, home of Hardy Nickerson. Very cool. Great to have Compton in the house. So Bowles said on Monday that everyone is trending in the right direction. He was specifically asked about Shaq and Carlton. I think Shaq would be closer to playing because it's a groin injury versus a concussion, which obviously is very serious. Shaq has been out there at practice, but obviously not participating. I am curious, because the Bucs knew that they had to win one out of their next two, that they said, all right, we'll try to get the job done without Shaq.
Good point, man.
And if they don't win, we'll have him fresh and ready to go for the game against Carolina. That's kind of what I'm leaning at. But has he lost a step? I think so. I mean, we do also have to factor in he is coming off of an Achilles injury, and sometimes it takes longer for people to return from that. So we don't even know if we'll be able to get that look next season, if he'll still be with the Bucs. But I think it's very clear he's not in his prime. He's not the 2019 version of Shaq or Shaq.
Used him on Sunday. He's better than Joe Tryon-Schwenka.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Anthony Nelson. He's not even the 2020 or 2021 version of Shaq when he made the Pro Bowl, I believe, in 2021.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Has he lost a step? I would say so. That doesn't mean he's not important to the team. I think he still adds a lot from a leadership perspective and being a mentor and things of that nature. So we'll see what his availability is for this week. Meets McGee with the $5 super chat says, if Bowles is back next season, what would be the difference from his other teams he's led? Does he do a good job at self-evaluation, in your opinion? Well, not really, because the Jets, his best season was his first year with the Jets. They went 10-6, but did not make the playoffs. And I almost hate bringing this up, Bucs fans,
with Ryan Fitzpatrick too, right?
They had to. Yes, that was with Ryan Fitzpatrick. They had to beat the Buffalo Bills in the last week of the season on the road against a lowly Bills team. Now that Bills team was better than this current Panthers team, and this is way before Josh Allen and everything like that. And the Jets did not get the job done. Historically, they don't. And they lost. And that's when they had Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker and a really high-powered offense. And then the next season, there was a whole contract dispute with Fitzpatrick. He ended up re-signing with the team, but the team was never the same. They regressed on offense a ton. Defensively, they had older pieces. So one of those things where some players did lose a step. And we've criticized Todd Bowles a lot this year for not being able to kind of read the room or read the development of his players quickly enough to push that button and insert Yaya Diaby earlier than he should have, or stuff with Ryan Neal as well. So, that's definitely a point of concern, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to stick up for Todd Bowles in any regards, he was dealt with a $79 million dead cap situation, having to play a bunch of rookies this year because that's all the team could afford at a lot of positions, basically being hamstrung in free agency where he couldn't go out and pick players. Now, Jason Light and Bowles did a good job of drafting players. So this is not like Bowles was given a Super Bowl caliber team and has stubbed his toe and, tripped and fallen with this team and underachieved. As Matt said on Sunday's podcast after the game, he picked the Buccaneers to be 8-9. I picked the Bucs to be 9-8. One of us is going to be right, and guess what? The other one's not going to be that far off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. And I even said when I made my prediction, I said, they're 9-8, and I'm not sure if they're making the playoffs or not, because I'm not sure what the Panthers, or not the Panthers, but the Saints or Falcons are going to do. It turns out if they are 9-8, they will win the NFC South, but they'll win it in Week 18.
Yeah.
So at no point in time did we think this team was a big time playoff contender and was going to be a 2 or 3 seed. If they were going to win the division, it would be because the division would stay downtrodden, which it has this year. So,
listen,
so there's that.
They're an average team.
Yeah.
They're an average team that can lose to anybody and can pull off an upset.
Bingo.
But they're
Absolutely.
a very, very average team. Speaking about all these picks, we'll do the super chat first. Thank you to Catherine Laboda for the $5 super chat, who says, and I believe was featured on our roll call as well. No question or comment. Just wanted to wish you both a happy new year and thank you for putting on this show. I look forward to it every week.
We appreciate
Catherine, that warms my heart. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you as well, and
happy
to all the Peter people. Yeah, like I said before, you guys make the show so much fun. It's your show. We kind of just steer it in whatever direction. What you guys want to talk about, we're very happy to talk about as well. And your excitement of the show makes me even more pumped and happy to do the show. So thank you so much, Catherine, for the very kind words. One thing I want to help out everybody else as well is if you want to start making some picks for the Bucs for other games, go and do it over at Underdog Fantasy using the promo code PEWTER. That's PEWTER. Get a first deposit bonus over at Underdog. It's a really fun game. They have different prizes, different pools, but the pick 'em is really where it's at. That's what I enjoy doing the most. You just pick between 2 and 5 players for any game. It's got to be at least one from each team. So if you want to do Bucs versus Panthers, you do have to pick a Panthers player as well, but you can load up on Bucs players. Or if you think the Bucs defense is going to be great, maybe you think, lower on the passing yards for Bryce Young or Andy Dalton, whoever ends up playing. Or if you love Rashad White, you think he's going to go over on his rushing yards or receiving yards, you can pick that as well. So just choosing a number of different stats. You can pick all the way up to 5 players and win up to 20 times your money over at Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code PEWTER, PEWTER. Like I said, get a first deposit bonus. You do it for football. You do it for all the major sports, which is great. So you can use it all year round. Check out Underdog Fantasy and shout out to our friends over there on that spot. I think you're muted, Scott.
There we go. Didn't like the sound of my own voice. I muted myself. Just in case you need a reminder, tomorrow is Wednesday, and that means our preview show, Bucs and Panthers preview. Kind of a scary game, I'm not going to lie, Matt. Mm-hmm. We have seen this team, and you put it so apropos just a moment before, where you said this team can beat anybody and lose to anybody. And they have won games that surprised and shocked us, and they have lost games that have also surprised and shocked us with this team. So hopefully for the Buccaneers and the Peter people, they win this hat and T-shirt, and then we'll see what happens in the playoffs. So it'll be another home playoff game that will make the Glazers happy, but they also want to be happier with the win rather than a loss, as what happened last year. So we'll see. Lots to discuss tomorrow with the Bucs and Panthers preview at 4:00 here on Pewter Report TV. And also, it's also live streamed on X, on Pewter Report, as well as our Facebook channel as well. So lots of different ways you can watch the live show. And if you miss it, you can always check out our archived podcasts on Pewter Report TV. Just in case you missed out on the news last year, we can tell you this year that the Eric Gross Group is the official realtor of Pewter Report. That's right. Eric Gross, good friend of ours, is one of the top real estate agents in the country. And in my opinion, he's the best in Florida. It takes a full team effort to win in football, as you know. It also takes a full team effort to win in real estate. That's where the Eric Gross Group comes in. Eric Gross has done hundreds of transactions in this crazy real estate market. And he and his team have got experience in all types of situations, whether you're buying a house, whether you're selling a house, moving into Florida, moving out of Florida, moving around the state. Turn to the Eric Gross Group, the official realtor of Pewter Report. Visit his website, housesinfla.com, housesinfla.com. Check out their inventory. It's a great website. I love the layout. Their clients aren't just transactions, they're lifelong friendships. Eric's a great guy. You can start off by talking about Tampa Bay football because he is a Pewter person just like you all. And he's an avid Pewter Report reader, Tampa native. His dad was stationed in MacDill Air Force Base. So there's a lot to like about Eric, and especially it's his track record for buying and selling houses. No matter where you are in your home ownership journey, you're going to feel welcome at the Eric Gross Group, the official realtor of Pewter Report. Again, visit housesinfla.com.
Before we wrap up the show, we got 2 more super chats to get to, starting out with Meets McGee. Thanks for the $5 super chat. Says, Scott and Matt, I appreciate your professionalism. I like that this podcast don't do all the goofy things like a Family Guy skit. Happy New Year. Meets McGee, thank you so much for the kind words. Appreciate your fandom. You're always in the comments. You're very gracious with super chats as well. We try to put on a good show every episode. I think we do a pretty good job of it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we listen to feedback as well. I know there was a time where you felt there's a little bit too much Devin White discussion, so we mixed it up a little bit as well. And, we appreciate all the feedback that we get and, try to apply it as much as we can and when it is necessary. So, yeah, glad you guys
try to be entertaining. We'll joke around a little bit, but it's...
I think it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. There's a little bit of something for everybody. And thank you to Ryan Finneran for this $4.99 super chat. Says, if Tampa beats Carolina on Sunday, I think we beat the Eagles the following week. Happy New Year's, Pewter Report. Also, Matt's picks are a lock. Guys, I've been red hot with, Matty Diamonds, baby. I have been red hot with my Bucs picks. All my props the last 2 weeks have hit, so I believe that's about 6 in a row. Feel free to parlay them. Feel free to take each one individually. As much as I want to keep this streak going, I don't necessarily think I'm going to go 15 picks in a row. I'll probably just go like 14-1, and that'll be all right. I'll be able to live with it. But Ryan, thank you very much for the kind words. I like gambling anyway, so I'm going to bet on it, whether or not I'm broadcasting it publicly. But to see other people win money as well and share in the joy that I do, it's truly been great. And I really, really love seeing that side of it. As far as the Bucs beating the Eagles, something's off with the Eagles. I said it earlier. Their defense has regressed, not getting to the quarterback as much, terrible on third downs. And
Jalen Hurts isn't the same either.
Jalen Hurts, I think, no pun intended, is hurt. I think there's something a little bit off with Jalen Hurts. And, they have a ton of talent on that team, but if your quarterback isn't at the level that you need him to be at, that makes all the difference.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I appreciate that, Nathan, very much. Yeah, I'm with you. The Eagles, that might be the best draw for the Buccaneers. And remember, the Bucs did beat the Eagles. Granted, it was with Tom Brady in a much better Buccaneer team in 2021 before they lost to the Rams at Ray J in a devastating loss in the playoffs, because I think they were destined to repeat as Super Bowl champions. If they had gotten past the Rams, I think they would have beaten the Bengals for sure. But that's the way it goes. New team, new year, a new playoff opportunity, but it doesn't happen unless they beat the Panthers first. So if they do that, Todd Bowles lives to fight another day and will continue to chronicle his journey as the Bucs head coach. If not, it could be end of the line. That's why we said at the beginning of the show, folks, high stakes in Carolina. There is so much on the line in this game. It's going to be win, and they're in, loss, and there could be a house cleaning. So it could be a very abrupt ending to a Buccaneer chapter, or the continuation of an interesting story that could see Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers possibly advance in the postseason and show some signs of life and maybe stick around for 2024 and see what happens. So a lot on the line this week. Make sure that you tune into tomorrow's podcast at 4 o'clock as we preview the Bucs and Panthers.
Yeah, we're going to break it all down. And in the meantime, please follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, Threads, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel, of course, is Pewter Report TV, where we have various shows, the podcast, Pewter Game Day Show, things from practice, and the press conferences as well. So please like and subscribe. Leave a comment as well after the show is done. It helps spread our audience. We're getting very close to 13,000, and would absolutely love to hit it by the end of the season. So for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching. Happy New Year, and we will see you tomorrow for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.